Hey, we're live, pal.
Yay, we're live. So exciting. How are you doing, Ryan?
I've been doing great. It's been a minute, but I've missed
Yeah,
you.
I know it feels like it's been a long time, and I know it's only been a couple weeks, but it feels long. It really does.
Yeah, it definitely feels long when I've been away, but we're back now, and that's all that
Yes.
matters.
Yes. Because of Sundance, both like kind of getting ready for Sundance and then covering Sundance, and then after it was just I was just overwhelmed. So that's why we had a little break. But I'm glad to be back, and hopefully things are going well for you out there in Florida.
Well, it's currently raining right now, so if you all hear any like ambient noise, it's the rain.
Yeah. Hopefully you haven't had too bad of weather.
Yeah, it's actually been very nice here. It's been kind of chilly in the mornings, but then by the end of the night, it's really nice. So
It's good.
I'm going to enjoy this weather because as soon as like May hits, it's just going to be like you're going to hear Lawrence of Arabia's score kick in because it's going to get hot.
Yes. We've had so much snow this year here in Utah. It's a great if anybody wants to plan a ski trip, this is the year to do it because we've had like something like 40% more snow than a typical year here. So and which is good because we've had a drought for 10 years. So this is good news. But yeah, it's been a lot of shoveling.
I can only imagine.
Yes. And we do have our chat open. So if people want to, we already have Allison's here saying hello. So hello. And we have the super chat if anyone feels so inclined. If you have questions for us or comments, then we would love to hear. So why don't I guess we should dive into it. We are doing our 10th episode for a particular series. For a particular service? What are we talking about this week?
We're talking about Amazon Prime, and it's crazy that we've done 10, but I mean, if you think about it, Amazon's got a lot of good stuff on there.
Yeah, they really do. I mean, especially because they're out there producing, their own indie films and buying films from Sundance and places like that. And they also have had their own series and quite a bit of variety in where that comes from as well. So there's a lot going on. I think I had picked this because I was hoping that Shotgun Wedding would be better. Ooh.
It was.
It was not. And I didn't realize that Jennifer Lopez has such a shoddy pedigree when it comes to wedding movies. I didn't realize that there were so many bad ones from her. I mean, we should have appreciated Marry Me more because it was actually pretty good. She has a lot of terrible wedding movies with Monster in Law, and I mean, I guess it was The Wedding Planner, which was like okay, but yeah, this was not good. It was not. The problem is it just wasn't funny. It was trying to be kind of an action movie, but then also be a rom com, kind of, but it just wasn't funny. So it was rough. It was not good.
It was the
So
biggest cinematic crime. It was a comedy with no laughs.
yes. Jeremiah says, "Hi, you two. Good to see you both. Random question time. Do you remember who your top artist was on your Spotify Wrapped? Mine was Taylor Swift. I actually didn't have enough listens for a Spotify Wrapped because I pretty much just listen to podcasts. I don't listen to the music that much. I tend to listen on Amazon Music more than Spotify because I have a Amazon account and everything, and so I don't have to pay for the premium for Spotify. So, but I'm trying to think who's my favorite. I mean, I love show tunes, so it would probably be some variation on show tunes. It would be my favorite. What about you?
I barely use Spotify. I only use it to listen to Joe Rogan and his podcast, and that's like here and there. So I don't really use it enough. I guess if I had to venture a guess in terms of music wise, Probably have to, because when I run, I listen to this type of music called nightcore. It's basically songs but like really up tempo. So I sometimes find nightcore playlists on Spotify, and I just use those. So that would
Yeah.
probably be my top.
For my semi kind of part-time job, I do some corporate blogging, and it's mainly for a product called Zims, which is for like muscle relief. It's kind of like Bengay type things. And so I write, I'm always doing all these blogs on like fitness and things. And so I've actually done some blogs on the various Spotify playlists and things. So I know what you're talking about. Yeah. But I'm not a big Spotify person. I mean, I listen to, again, podcasts. Particularly, I'll listen to my podcast or my friend's podcast. I really like my friend does the Pilot Podcast, which is a really fun podcast that where her and her friend BJ, me too, and her friend BJ, they cover pilots of all the different shows, and so it's a nice way to listen. You listen to her show, and you can get a little taste of, okay, maybe this is worth checking out. Maybe this is a good one. And they cover a lot of ground and a lot of variety, everything from like game shows to romantic shows to dramas, and they cover the networks and the streaming services. So it's a really good podcast. I recommend it, and checking it out. So that's one that I listen to. But yeah, you have to tell us, Jeremiah, what your top pick. You said Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. Yeah, I have nothing against Taylor Swift. I think Taylor Swift is fine. I like her music, fine. But yeah, I mean, if it was as far as like non-show tunes, it would probably be Michael Bublé.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah, I love Michael Bublé. I love Josh Groban. I love Sarah Bareilles. Those probably be my top 3 favorites. So, all right. Well, I guess should we dive in? Start talking about Amazon?
Yeah, let's go and do it.
Okay. So, what is your first pick?
So my first choice is from 2018, and it is called "I Can Only Imagine." This is a kind of biopic about the formation of the band MercyMe, and it focuses specifically on the front man of the group. And MercyMe created the song "I Can Only Imagine." And if you ever attended a church youth group or were part of your church youth group, you have heard the song, undoubtedly. But the movie is not about the creation of the song. It's about the tough upbringing of the lead singer and his difficult relationship with his father, who in this movie is played by Dennis Quaid. And
I would say it's kind of about the creation of the song, though. Like everything sort of builds up to the moment when he writes the song.
That is a good point. Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, that is a very good point. But like you said, it all leads into the creation of the song. All of the trials and tribulation just builds to one big crescendo that is that song. And like I said, if you ever were in like a Christian youth group or any kind of youth group in like middle and high school, that song was like required listening. Like everyone, like you couldn't go a day without someone quoting it or hearing about it. But importantly, this movie was created by the Kingdom Story Company, I believe they are called, and they have since gone on to do American Underdog, which I believe I've recommended on an episode before, which is very good. The story about Kurt Warner, and they're coming out with Jesus Revolution at the end of this month. And I have said that those creators just need to have all of the faith-based material given to them, because clearly they know what they're doing. And I really did enjoy this movie. I believe it came out around the same month as Infinity War or around that time, so it definitely got lost in the shuffle. But I give this one a really big recommendation, especially if you're not really religious. It's still a very nice story about someone just starting at like the way bottom and using all of his experiences to get to the top. That's something that everybody can relate to.
Yeah, I mean, The Erwin brothers really are making faith-based films on a different level than most of the others. They are
Mhm.
a lot better. I mean, there's a giant flaw in this movie that you kind of have to ignore in the fact they have basically like a 35-year-old man playing a high school student. They
That
should
is
have
true.
they should have cast a teenager for that section. It just feels weird, especially when he's like especially when the girl, the female role, the love interest is so much younger looking and looks appropriate for high school, and he's got like a full beard. That is bad. But if you can ignore that, everything else of this is very solid. And we did a whole episode when we were doing Sunday devotionals during quarantine, me and Durbin. We did a whole episode on this movie because it is definitely one of the best faith-based films. And I think it's helped by the fact that the song is so good.
Yeah.
There was that other one that was what was it called? Based on another song that was just before it came out, like the week of when quarantine started. I'm Amazed or something like that. Anyway, there was another one, but like the song is not as good. Whatever it was. Of course, I can't remember. It had Britt Robertson in it. Anyway, but this song is so catchy. It has one. I would say that I Can Only Imagine is one of the best hooks in a song of any pop song, like religious or not. It is so catchy. It just draws you in. And so that helps this movie a lot. That's just got a really good song at the core.
Mhm.
And then the relationship between the father and son is very well done. You've got quality actors, especially Dennis Quaid, that elevates this. And the woman that they got to play Amy Grant looks exactly like her. I mean,
Yes.
I thought it was her. I mean, she looks so much like her. It's
Yeah.
really impressive. Yeah. And so all those things work, and it just builds the screenplay, builds up to that moment when he gets to sing. Because at first they think Amy Grant's going to sing the song, and then she lets them have the song, and that moment when he sings it is like so powerful. So I think it's a really solid movie if you can forgive the flaw of the 35-year-old man going to high school. Everything else is really solid.
The song is called "I Still Believe."
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That one wasn't as good. Like it was okay, but it wasn't as good as this.
Yeah.
We have a comment from Jeremiah. He says, Michael Bublé rocks. Taylor is mostly on top because I love folklore so much. I Can Only Imagine is a beautiful song. It's one of the Christian songs I still like, along with Bless the Lord, Oh My Soul. And I remember my friend David Healy, he's not, I don't think, particularly religious, but he really liked this movie. I remember him saying it really moved him. And so, yeah, I don't think you have to be religious to appreciate I Can Only Imagine, which is what a faith-based film should do. And I think that what makes good faith-based films are about, in my opinion, are about individual journeys more than they're about ministry. It's just telling one person's story with their faith and what happened and their conversion, as opposed to saying, like, we want to start this ministry. Because when you have something like War Room or something like that, like they literally at the end of War Room, they have a number that you can call to be part of like the War Room ministry, right? And that's just not as effective as a movie as like an actual story about something.
Yeah, and my problem with Pure Flix and just brief side road, my problem with those movies is just they treat non-believers as basically Dracula, like just the worst kind of atheist stereotypes.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that some of my friends are atheists and they're some very nice people. So that's my problem. It
That's
just
true. That's a good
like
point.
like you just like, oh, you believe in God, like you're just like you're scum. And I'm like, that's not how atheism works, guys. Come on.
Yeah. I agree. It's a good pick. Well, my first pick is a little movie from last year that I saw at Sundance last year. And I remember that last year Sundance was a little rough for me. I didn't have very much that I liked. And I'm kind of wondering, because this year I liked almost everything that I saw at Sundance. So I don't know if just the movies were way better this year, or if I was just in a better mood, or maybe a little bit of both. I don't know. I'd have to go and revisit some of those ones from last year. But this one stood out to me last year of one that I actually liked. It's called Brian and Charles. And it's just a sweet, simple little movie about this man who has built this robot named Charles, and they're kind of shenanigans together. And it's just a very sweet movie. So I don't know. There's not that much else to say, but it's funny. It's cute. I guess it was originally a short, and then they expanded it into a feature film. But yeah,
I had never heard of this one. It kind of sounds like this movie starring Frank Langella called Robot and Frank. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is just very sweet and a nice story about this man and this goofy kind of robot that he builds out of his washing machine. His washing machine and sundry spare parts later, he's invented Charles, an artificially intelligent robot who learns English from a dictionary and proves a charming, cheeky companion. Before long, however, Charles also develops autonomy. Intrigued by the wider world or whatever lies beyond the cottage where Brian has hidden him away, Charles craves adventure. So that kind of gives you a feel for what it is. So Jeremiah says that War Room is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It was just too silly. It's very dogmatic, very over the top. So I understand that. So what is your next pick?
So my next choice, and this is definitely one where, like, I mean, it got a lot of awards attention, so I'm definitely walking the tightrope here. However, I think it's a movie that I was at the right age to see, and it's called The King's Speech. It combines many things that I love, like Colin Firth, Geoffrey Rush. It's not in World War II, but it's in the prelude to World War II, and it's a lot of history, and it's just a lot of stuff that I like. And it tells the story of King George VI, who had a really bad stuttering problem, to the point where, like, the first scene in the movie, he has to give this great speech, and he just can't do it. And it's not like one of those things where he can just be like, a line. It's like, no, he can't do that. It's one take, and then also it's through the radio, so he's just sitting there and he's like, it's like he's just stuck. So then he gets speech therapy from someone who is not a speech therapist, played by Geoffrey Rush, and the two form a great dynamic together. And really, there are several scenes where I just loved it, like the scene where King George is told that Lionel Logue is not a licensed speech therapist, and the reason why he became a speech therapist is really, really good. And then when Lionel Logue sits in the throne, and the king's like, "That is St. Edward's chair," and Lionel Logue's like, "Do you know how many royal asses have sat in this chair?" It's so funny. And then it's the cherry on the sundae is when finally the king is just like, "I have a voice," and you're like, wow, he had that in him this whole time. It's brilliant stuff. And so I think because this was around the time where the Oscars were kind of seen as like controversy based, so that one winning was like, really, you went with that one? But trust me, it is better than you remember. It is fantastic.
Yeah, I have some hot takes. I think that it deserved to win, and I'm glad that it won. I think that it is better than The Social Network. I think that it is a moving story about a friendship, an unlikely friendship that grows between these two people. And I love stories about friendship, so it really worked for me on that level. Obviously, I love period pieces, but I think the portrayal of King George and his and the and the friendship, but particularly that character, I think is a really well-rounded, nuanced character that we get to know throughout the movie. Where, in my opinion, I don't think that Mark Zuckerberg is a very well-written character in this social network, because I think that he's very one note. He's just the one note, like socially awkward, greedy rich guy, and I feel like we don't get much more than that in the portrayal. We don't really learn kind of what makes him tick, and I I find that sometimes a problem with Aaron Sorkin's writing is that I think sometimes his characters, the dialogue is obviously great, of course, but the characters I think often are kind of one note. They have one thing that they are about, and that's it, and you never really get deep into the character like I want to have. And so I don't know. I don't think that I don't know. Like I understand why people love The Social Network. I don't think it's as great as people think it is, and I think that The King's Speech was the worthy winner that year. I think it's a beautifully made film. I think it's a beautifully acted film. I think it's got a very good script with characters that I really grew to care about. So that's my unpopular opinion for the episode.
I was, well, to parlay away from that. I love Lionel Logues' like speech techniques. It was like the
Yeah.
like that stuff. And there's a scene where like he has King George's wife, played by Helena Bonham Carter, in her best role, by the way, where he's like, and slowly up comes Her Royal Majesty, and slowly down comes Her Royal Majesty, as he's like sitting on like George's chest, and he's like doing breathing exercises. It's
Yeah.
kind
I
of
mean,
weird, but
she has so many amazing roles that it's hard for me to say is that. I mean, I love her in Howard's End and so many other roles, but yeah, she's great in it. Yeah, it's a great cast, beautifully made. I I agree, and it's a shame that it has the one scene with all the F words, because that made it an R rating, and it's the only reason that it's an R rating is that one scene.
interesting. And really, that scene is so funny because just he says all the F bombs, and then he ends it with TITS, and it just comes completely out of nowhere.
Yeah,
And just how he says it makes me laugh every time, because he just says it. He's going off and he's going on, and then he finally ends it with that. And I'm just like,
yeah. It's
that's how
just
you
like the people
function.
that just have those rules of like, I don't see any rated R movies, which I know a lot of those people. It's like you miss out on a really great film because of one scene with some
Precisely
words.
one.
Yeah, with just some words. So, whereas like there's lots of PG-13 movies that have way more offensive stuff than The King's Speech.
Hmm.
That's for sure. But anyway, I mean, what if you were to give? What would you give? Would you give The Social Network or The King's Speech?
I would say, I mean, Social Network is the Social Network. I mean, I have now seen it, and it is very good. But it's like it it checks all the boxes of what a good movie should be, and I think it's just fine. But with The
Yeah.
King's Speech, it has more lumps in it, but I emotionally resonate more with The King's Speech. Especially, there's this great scene where it's after hours and Lionel Logue is just about to close up, but the king is there, and his father just passes away, and then he does and then he talks about some of the messed up stuff that happened to the king when he was a boy, and he can't really talk about it, so Lionel Logue is like, just talk about it through song. And
Mhm.
then he tells some of the stories. I'm like, wow, that kind of sucks, like low key. And so
Yeah.
it's just fantastic stuff.
Mhm. Well, and it's a really interesting story because, especially when you learn the fact that he didn't plan on being king, he wasn't really even sort of uh, socialized to be king. And his brother was supposed to be king, and then dropped out,
Yeah.
abdicated to get married. which I'm surprised there hasn't been more movies made about that. That seems like a great story, but still, like, so this all was something kind of thrust upon him, and I think that adds a layer or two to the story. Yeah. All right. Well, my second choice is a imperfect film, but I still think worth a watch. It's called Something from Tiffany's, and this is a rom-com from last year. I did give fresh on it. I don't love some elements of the plot, if I'm honest, because it involves people lying and which the way that it's handled. Some of the plot elements aren't my favorite. It's basically about this this man and this other man end up running into each other after going to Tiffany's, and they end up switching bags. And so one gets the engagement ring of the other, and the other gets the earrings that the other was buying. And they both end up giving these gifts to their significant others. And so the one that ends up getting the engagement ring from her boyfriend, who pretends that he bought it and he was planning on it, ends up meeting up with the other guy through various conferences, and they become friends. And so you got a little bit of emotional cheating going on. All that isn't like the best, but what works about this movie is that Zoe Douche and Kendrick Sampson are so charming, so likable. They have such great chemistry that it overcomes all of those flaws that I just mentioned, because I liked them so much that they like eke out a good rom-com between the two of them. The dialogue was pretty good between them. The banter was good. All the New York, everything was good and very romantic, and got some Christmas elements thrown in there, which of course I'm going to enjoy. It's not like a heavy holiday film. It just happens to be set at Christmas. So I think because of them, they are worth watching this movie for, because they're so charming and so good together. So that's why if I would recommend, even though I admittedly don't love the plot. So it's what you'd call a mixed review.
This was an Amazon original, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, but I think it actually is on a quality as far as the production that it could have gone to theaters in a different era. I think certainly the acting's good enough, the cinematography, all the other production is strong enough. It's only 87 minutes, so that in that way it fits more of a TV movie. But I think in other ways it could have gone to a theater. It's very well made. Let's see here. We got a couple comments here. Brandon Heat says, "Did you see the Zootopia 2, Frozen 3, and Toy Story 5 have been announced? Also, I'm more excited for Zootopia 2. What are your thoughts on that, Ryan?"
So I have not seen Zootopia since the theaters, so I'll have to rewatch it. But from what I do remember of it, I did like it. Frozen 3, I mean, I like both Frozen 1 and 2 equally, so I'm all for it if they have a good story for it. Stop making Toy Story movies, please. Is like, especially now that Woody is out of the equation, it's like, why even bother at this point? So I'm optimistic about Frozen 3, Zootopia 2, I can take or leave. Toy Story 5, complete sell. Like, I'm not a fan of that decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Zootopia 2, I think there's actually a lot of potential, because they built up all of this world in Zootopia, all these worlds, and then they didn't really use them that much. So there's so many stories that you can tell within each of these boroughs, and there's so many cases you could have, and so much you could do. And so I think Zootopia 2 could potentially be even better than Zootopia 1, because we had kind of the like cheap reveal villain in Zootopia 1, which was fine, but like I think there's things they could do that would be sort of more innovative than some of the story elements of Zootopia 1. And I mean, they were really going for that hard allegory in Zootopia 1, which I appreciate. But I think in the second one, they could be more creative with story. So yeah, that would be good. Um,
I agree.
with Frozen 3, I kind of feel like how much music do the Lopez's really have left in their arsenal for this world? I mean, they already did obviously all the songs for Frozen 1, Frozen 2, for the specials, everyone except for Olaf's Frozen, they didn't do that one. And then they did the Broadway musical, which had like 20 songs. So, I mean, I just kind of feel like, do they have any more there to tell?
I'm pretty sure Disney was like, all right, back up the Brinks truck. Boo, 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 boo. Like right in the backyard. We'll sort it out later.
And they did confirm, Kristen Anderson Lopez did confirm that they're back. They're doing it. So it's that's my only kind of hesitancy, because I loved Frozen 2. I thought it was great. I loved the Broadway musical. So far, they haven't disappointed me. I even liked Olaf's Frozen Adventure. I'm like the only person in the world who enjoyed that. So, so yeah, I've liked everything Frozen so far. So I can only assume that I'll enjoy this. But it is the first time that Disney will have done a third episode as far as their canon. They haven't done very many sequels, period. Before this last era, they've only done, I mean, unless you have a really loose definition of sequel, but really the only one they had done up until, like I said, this era was Rescuers Down Under, and everything else, like unless you count something like Fantasia 2000 as sequel, which I don't. It's just a anthology series, so I don't think it counts as like a sequel. But they haven't done very many sequels, and they haven't ever done any that were a third entry. So that's new for Disney. And then also with Toy Story 5, I feel like I'm almost more down on it because of Lightyear than I am because of Toy Story 4, which I really liked. I thought it was very moving. I really enjoyed it. I know people's complaints. I don't have those complaints. I thought it was really good. I feel like, can you really end the series now? This will be a third time with these same characters. And Lightyear was just like such a strange project that it kind of feels like, well, that didn't work. So now we're going to go back. We can't give up this franchise. So now we're going to go back to Toy Story 5. I don't know. There's something about it that, because of Lightyear, feels more kind of desperate to me. So it's a bit of a shame, because you feel like all the stories that they could be telling that are new, but you never know. I mean, look at Puss in Boots. I had little hope for that project and how great it was. So you never know. People can do great things. It all depends on the script. Let's see here. Let's see. I've never seen the film, but I've seen that famous clip where the king says, so it's King's speech. King says those words. It's gold. He's so sweet. It's almost like if Maria from Sound of Music suddenly burst out F-bombing. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then one last here. It says, I am so excited for all those films, but also so nervous. I want them to be good so badly. I don't really care if a franchise is being milked. I just care if the film is good. Again, look at Puss in Boots, how great that film was. Great story, great, they use the characters well, incredible innovative animation, and they did not have to try that hard. And if there's anything that Pixar can do is they can try really hard and make beautiful films. So I never count them out, that's for sure. So we'll see. But I think it's more the failure of Lightyear that makes me nervous about Toy Story 4 more than Toy Story 5 more than Toy Story 4. But it's a good question. It's a very good question. Everyone's talking about it. So but what is your next pick?
So my next choice is a movie from 2013, and it is called Snitch, and it stars The Rock and Jon Bernthal. Tells the story of a father whose son is arrested for a crime that he did not commit. Basically, the son accepts some illegal drugs that was meant to be for his friend, but it gets sent to his house by mistake. And he is, because he has accepted the drugs unknowingly, regardless or not, it looks like he's going to get the 25 to life sentence. However, his father is like, what can I do to reduce his sentence? Basically, the father becomes an informant and goes undercover as a trucker to track down who shipped the drugs and why, and but teams up with one of his employees who is a bit of an ex-con, John Bernthal, to try and find out who did this. This movie definitely came under the radar when it first came out, and this was one my dad and I saw, and I've always liked. It's definitely a story of like a father trying to save his son from a horrible fate, so you've definitely seen it before. But The Rock is pretty good in it. There are several scenes where I'm like, yeah, you better save your son on this one. The action's pretty good. Overall, this is definitely one of those that would definitely qualify as like a Sunday matinee watch. It's not like greatest of all time status, but it comes in, it does the job story-wise, and it gets out.
I've never seen this one, so that's interesting to hear about it.
Yeah, and it's not overly violent. I think it's PG-13, so it's more story-based than actually like going for any hardcore action, which is definitely appealing to some.
Yeah. Cool. Well, my next pick is one I actually mentioned, talking about Jennifer Lopez, but we're talking about Marry Me from last year. I don't think that her and Owen Wilson had like the best chemistry, but it was like serviceable. I actually think she had better chemistry with the other singer guy, who was a jerk, of course, but at least when they were singing, they had really, really good chemistry. And the story of she marries this stranger, it almost has a bit of a Roman Holiday-esque vibe of this celebrity, basically like American versions of our, princesses, kind of like Roman Holiday. It gets to know this commoner, quote unquote, and he's kind of a Luddite. He doesn't really use technology that much, and the way that they make her kind of an influencer, I don't think anybody of her status would really be like hawking blenders, but nevertheless, she is in this movie, and the relationship between her and the little girl is super cute, and music is really good, and it's sweet. And I liked who was it? That's her. That's his friend. Yes, Sarah Silverman.
Sarah Silverman, yes.
I actually liked her in this. She was funny. I'm normally not a big fan of hers, but she was funny. So overall, it's a enjoyable rom-com, I would say.
Yeah, I actually did enjoy this. I liked the ending. It's very much he's going to be late for something, and it's very much like getting there at the last minute, but it does pack the punch, and I really do like Owen Wilson in this role. He comes across as very sympathetic, but not like oh, come on, dude, are you serious? Like, it's very realistic in that sense.
Yeah. So what do you have next?
So my next choice, and I initially had written you something else. However, I'm going to switch it up a bit.
Oh, okay.
I'm going a bit in the late 60s. It's a movie called To Sir with Love, which is a movie that I have quite a bit of an affinity for. It starred Sidney Poitier. It tells the story of him who was an engineer but has recently been laid off and is staying in the north, in like the north end of England, where it's really rough. He becomes a teacher to basically they're kids that are about this close away to becoming droogs in The Clockwork Orange. Like, they're not exactly the best students, period.
Mm-hmm.
And initially he tries to do the whole school thing, but then they really try to break his spirit. But then he's like, all right, I'm going to start treating you like adults, because that's what you're going to be when you leave this school. And basically, he tries to turn his class into more of a this is how the world really is kind of class, and it's all very well done. Sidney Poitier is just fantastic in this. I mean, he was good in most of the things he was in anyway, and it's no different here. The singer known as Lulu is a character here, and she's really good. She would go on to sing one of the more famous Bond anthems, which I cannot remember off the top of my head, but I'm sure someone knows what it is. But she is really good here as well. There's a great little montage of where they all go to the British Museum, and it's so fun. It's such a cool little montage with the anthem of To Sir With Love, the opening song. It's really well done. It's one of those movies from the late 60s that really did fall under the radar that I cannot recommend enough.
Yeah, I actually watched this fairly recently because there was a Hallmark movie called To Her With Love that was about two teachers, the two art teachers in a struggling school. And it was actually, I thought, pretty well done. I really loved the lead actress, Sky Marshall. She was such a fun interview, hilarious. I highly recommend listening to that one. She was so good. And it was a cute little movie. And I really love inspirational teacher movies. They are an easy win for me. And there's one you want to keep an eye out for that I saw at Sundance called Radical. And it stars Eugenio Derbez, who I love. He's always good. Even in the Overboard remake, he was good. And he's in that, and he plays a true story of a teacher in this one of the most struggling schools in all of Mexico, and I think it was in Juarez, Mexico. And he helps them through his innovative teaching, and it was very good, very moving, very well done. Like, yeah, one of those movies we've seen a lot before, but very well executed and well done. And To Serve With Love is kind of the gold standard of this genre. It's great acting, very well done. You have movies like Up the Down Staircase and Dangerous Minds. And there's so many of those. Inspirational Teacher, Lean on Me, or Stand and Deliver. So many good movies. So anyway, I agree. I think it's a really good choice.
Have you ever seen Freedom Writers?
No, but that's another one.
Yeah, the Hilary Swank one. This was when Hilary Swank had just won two Oscars, and then she kind of disappeared.
Yeah. I've heard that was a good one as well. It's just an easy genre for me to. Teachers have so much going against them, and yet they so often manage to succeed. Let's see here. He says, Owen Wilson has become one of my personal favorite actors alive. He's lovable. He's a mix of dorky and cool, and an exceptionally good actor. Yeah, I mean, I especially loved him in Loki. He was so good in that show. Him and Tom Hiddleston had great chemistry. They fed off each other so well. That's one of my favorite roles of his. So my next choice is a very sad movie, but it's still, I think, worth seeing. It's called Manchester by the Sea. And this movie had one of the most effective scenes of like a panic attack I think I've ever seen, when Lucas Hedges flips out about them not having enough chicken. And obviously that's just emblematic of everything else going wrong in the family. And I thought it was so well done. The acting is great. I love Kyle Chandler. He's one of my favorite actors. He's so good in this. And Michelle Williams has an incredible scene. She's good throughout the movie, but an incredible scene where she forgives him for what happened. And it's a brutal movie, but it's I think a really well-made, well-acted movie.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I know Casey Affleck is really good in it.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely have to watch it eventually, but it was one of those that it fell under the radar for me.
Yeah.
But I've seen I've seen clips of it, so I know sort of what it is about, and it is very, very sad stuff.
Yeah, it's brutal. So you have to watch it with your tissues. So what is your next pick?
So my final choice is a movie from 2017, I believe, and it is called The Commuter. This was coming from Liam Neeson's long line of movies with Wami Colette Sarah, where he's on some kind of vehicle and everything goes completely wrong. This time he is on a train, and basically people try to blow up the train, for lack of a better word, and he has to go and fight it. And these types of Liam Neeson movies, I get that they're a formula and that they're played out, but I just really liked it for a time, and I definitely got tired of it after a while. I didn't see Blacklight or Memory because I just feel like, come on, man, Liam, like let's do something else now. But I did remember liking this one. It's definitely another one of those. It's very quick. It's a very easy watch. The good guys win at the end. I do give it a modest recommendation.
Mhm. Yeah, I haven't seen that many of these Liam Neeson movies. Like I haven't seen any of the Taken movies. I haven't seen. There's a bunch of them I haven't seen, and so when I watched this, I didn't have that burnout that other people had, and it's so well acted. I mean, the cast is great for this kind of movie to have Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson, Sam Neill, Elizabeth McGovern, like a really great cast. And I thought it built tension well, and I thought it was actually well shot. The way that it kind of used the train and built up tension in this small, compact environment well. So I actually gave it a pretty high score when I saw it because I hadn't seen most of the others that other people had kind of like, oh, we're burnt out on this now. Let's see. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's solid. Solid little action movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks that Neeson's new movie Marlowe is stuck with Ant-Man and the Wasp because that movie's going to get crushed. And I actually saw the trailer for it and it looks decent. Too bad that it's in the same weekend as MCU's debut of Phase 5. I mean, that's a death spot right there. I mean, might as well be Winnie the Pooh next to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Although I'm not hearing good buzz about this Ant-Man movie, so maybe it will maybe it will do better than we think. But I doubt it has a very big budget, so it probably doesn't need to do that.
Yeah, I'm still going to see it because, like I said, the trailer did look really good. So I am going to give it a shot.
Yeah. All right. Well, my last one is another Sundance film that I saw in 2019. It's called Late Night, and it's about Mindy Kaling's character becomes a writer for this late night show, which is hosted by this woman played by Emma Thompson. She's the only woman in late night. There still really isn't. There was like Samantha Bee for a time and Chelsea Handler for a time, but I don't think there's any women in late night. I mean, late night is just in a pathetic state right now. It's just not rarely funny, rarely engaging. But in this world, Emma Thompson is the late night host, and she's great, of course, as she always is. And then you basically have Mindy Kaling trying to get respect from all of these male writers, and they don't care what she has to say, and it is a little bit cliche. It's a little bit cloying sometimes, but I still thought it was funny enough, and that Thompson and Kaling had enough chemistry and were good enough that I think it worked. And John Lithgow plays her husband, and he's good. So overall, I think it's a funny, insightful enough. Like if you're looking for a true depiction of writers and in a writer's room, it's probably like not very accurate, I don't think. But for some laughs, some good performances, and I think it's worth a watch.
Yeah, Mindy Kaling wrote some very funny episodes of The Office, but
Mhm.
it's like I have not heard good things about Velma. So
Yeah.
I just and it's not like the thing where it's like, oh, those like critical drinker geeks and gamers types are hating it. Everyone is hating that
Yeah.
series. So
Yeah.
it's a
When
bit sad because I think she can be very funny. The problem is just I think she steers too deep into the hey, I'm a woman trying to make it in comedy. It's like, yeah, I know it must suck for women writers. I mean, it's primarily a male dominated field as far as I've known for like decades and decades, and it's I want people to have a chance from across all different backgrounds and creeds and genders and the like. But actually make things funny,
Mhm.
then go about like try and go for funny first. That is my point. And I
Well,
feel
I
like
think for the
she's
most part she has,
reaching.
like you said, The Office. I really enjoyed the Mindy Project, her show. I thought that was very well done. And then this I think is cute. And yeah, and then Velma just seems to be just a massive misfire, which is really surprising because her stuff is usually pretty empowering and I'm just surprised that she made something that's so evidently so bad. But this I think is I liked it. I thought it was good. But yeah, I agree that everything I've heard about Velma ooh, sounds terrible. So even when Sean Chandler, our friend Sean Chandler, says that it's unwatchable. Like he's usually pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's not good. Um, so Jeremiah says, "Oh my gosh, you just pushed a button. Poor old Winnie the Pooh, squashed like a bug by Deathly Hollows, and that was the end of the 2D studio. I hope Disney 2D comes back if Wish does well." And I don't know how much of Wish is really going to be 2D. We might want to temper our expectations. I don't think that all of it is. I think there's going to be like dream sequences or something like that that will have some 2D elements. Uh, I'm we'll be very curious once we get to see a trailer. We saw like a sizzle reel at D23, but and it wasn't the best. The sizzle reel at D23. It was all like Disney saying like we're the reason the people dream and all this stuff. You're just like, oh dear. If people wish upon stars, it's because of us. Oh,
Wow,
wow.
Disney, we can see your heads from space. Like, come on now.
But so yeah, and that whole Winnie the Pooh thing is sad. I think they were thinking like, oh, this is counter programming because it's for such little children that it's not going to be the same audience that's going to be interested in the Harry Potter movie, especially those later Harry Potter movies were pretty like violent, for like little. You're not going to take kindergartners to see those Harry Potter movies.
I mean, I started reading the Harry Potter books when I was 8.
Mhm.
So if they were targeting it for like 8-year-olds, then I mean,
Maybe,
that really
yeah.
wasn't it.
Yeah, every parent, every kid is different, but I think that's what they were thinking is like this will be the alternate programming. So like the older kids can go see Harry Potter, younger kids can go see Winnie the Pooh, but it didn't work out for them. But there we go, we did it. We had all of our picks. So let us know if you're listening what you have been watching on Amazon Prime. We'd love to hear your thoughts and on all the movies that we talked about today. And Ryan, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. And there's, of course, my YouTube channel, just called Ryan Cam. Wrapped up my Shyamalan project with my review of Knock at the Cabin and discussing the twist therein. I'm continuing my Road to Creed 3 series. Sunday will be my video on the supremely underrated Rocky Balboa from 2006. I was grateful enough to have on my buddy Phil from Phil Talks Sports to talk about it, and I love most, or not most, but I love all the videos that I do. I have great passion for them, but this was one of the more fun collabs I've ever done. Like just hashing it out with Phil was just a ton of fun, and I cannot wait for you all to see it. And that will be this coming Sunday. So if you have not checked me out, please do.
Great. Yeah, I should definitely check it out. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And check out Hallmarkies podcast. We've got lots of good coverage right now with Valentine's, of course, and with Loveuary on Hallmark Channel, which has been so good. The first movie was so good. So I'm really excited about this month. So definitely check out Hallmarkies podcast. And I was also just on Good Things Utah again today. So that was fun. I uploaded the video of it actually to the channel, so you can check that out. I was giving my Valentine's recommendations. That was really fun, and so I'd love your thoughts on that. And if you are watching this, please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel, and we appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group, and we're going to have a really fun Patreon watch along coming up next week with Madison and Greta for Meeting Mr. Christmas. We're going to find out all the details. So if you want to learn how movies are made and have fun with other movie fans, check out the Patreon. I would really appreciate it. We do it every month. And I also do every week. I have my AFI Passions reviews. I just finished writing the one for this week today about A Streetcar Named Desire, which is a very strange movie to have on the AFI Passions list,
Yeah.
but nevertheless, it's there. So I talked about it. And so I would really appreciate your support over on Patreon. And then I also have the merch store where we have like tons of fun Valentine's designs. So take a look at that. And thanks, everybody. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.